Greetings and welcome to Track vs. Track. I'm Jacob, and believe it or not, that is Matt Jensen across from me. If you're not watching Jensen's collections on his YouTube channel, this might be a surprise that I'm the hairy one, and you are looking good, Matt. But it might come as a shock because it was pretty dramatic. But it's hot out. Is that what did it? Was it Ragbri? And you were like, son of a...
Yeah, it's about feels like 100-degree temp right now. It's very humid too, and it's the easiest 2 pounds I've ever lost.
Well, in case you haven't guessed from Matt's decorations, his surroundings, we are returning to Beatles solo albums. And George, the Quiet Beatle, you have that's the Yellow Submarine in the corner. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the felt one is supposed to be, other than just George. Just a generic.
Yeah, it's another Yellow Submarine. It's a plush toy. I got them a pack. These are new actually. These came out in 2020 by Factory. Buzz Fact. Thank you. That's it. Yep.
And then that looks like Beatles animated series.
You got it. That's McFarlane 2004, and I think these came out in 98. And they had a Yellow Submarine band or Sgt. Pepper band, which came in the second volume. I have those too, but you really can't tell which one is which
because they're all wearing disguise. Yeah, I got the Blue Meanie. I got the Submarine. Nowhere Man, was that Jeremy the Nowhere Man? He was one.
Yep.
So we are discussing George, and we'll get into our George feelings before we get into the album. But to talk about what album we are talking about, this is Living in the Material World. It doesn't say it other than on the sleeve there. Gatefold, nice glossy gatefold. I'll try not to have too much glare. But we did a Paul, and then we did a John, and I was like, well, we have to do a George. And I was not looking forward to this at all. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if it's worth getting into right now, but I think George may have been my least favorite Beatle, period. And the solo stuff I had heard just sounded so monotonous and so dull to me that I was like, oh, we have to do a George. And I was too intimidated to do All Things Must Pass because it's a triple album and allegedly his masterpiece, and I know some tracks from that, so I was like, let's go with the next album, very well regarded as well, Living in a Material World. And I kind of loved this album. I love this album. I think it's a great album. Has me reconsidering George, maybe not as a Beatle. I still think he's probably I think he got interesting after the Beatles, not just from listening to this, but also rewatching that Scorsese documentary. The title kind of got me like, oh, it's on HBO Max. I watched this when it came out. I'll watch it again now that I care. So if I'll try not to cite that too much. But interesting dude, interesting solo artist from listening to this, and then I did end up listening to All Things Must Pass. But that'll be a discussion for another day. Matt, had you listened to this record before?
Never. Gosh, I bought this CD and the other ones that came out 2014. Bought them at the Best Buy. Bought them all in one just one big purchase. And I only had All Things Must Pass. That's the only Harrison album I had for, I think I got this probably in 2007, 2008. So I had this, several years before that. I had listened to it. I had liked it. I hadn't gotten really deep into it, though. I think I pretty much would always stop at like album one. And if it hadn't been for this, which was...
I saw that at Barnes & Noble this week.
Anniversary. This is the 8 LP set, actually. And I devoured this last summer. I really just had a new appreciation for George, not just as a solo artist, but even as a Beatle. Because like you, he was my least, he may still be my least favorite Beatle. But
I'm thinking he might be.
I wanted to do this because I knew that this was considered a strong follow-up. This is the next album in his solo discography. And then I think, people, find that the rest of his output is not up to par with these two. But, yeah, I've just never had an opportunity to listen to it. And this station and your involvement in this and all that was the push I needed to figure this album out or find this album and give it a listen.
Yeah, I'd heard, got my mind set on you. I like some of the later stuff, and I own one of the later records, and I picked up another one fairly recently. But I didn't know how good this was going to be. And before we get any later, I feel like you're outdoing me a bit with all the George stuff. So I'm going to upgrade my hat. While I was setting up, I saw my wife had a hat out that seems very George-ish.
Yes.
I don't think he's wearing it. Maybe is it all things must pass? He has a hat.
Yeah.
There he goes. So that's what I'm. It's a little. went vintage shopping this weekend. So,
That's nice.
very nice. Let's see how long I can tolerate it. So without I guess we got our George bona fides that we didn't. Yeah, I think more of our George feelings will come out throughout the discussion. At one point, you said, like, I always try and tap the brakes because you're talking to me about the album before we start recording. But you had said you think this might be a perfect record. And you backtracked from that a little bit. But you said you liked every song on it. I still like every song on the album. So it was a hard one to rank. I do think there are a few too many what you would call ballads. But I mean, of course, he sings about God a lot. John sings about Yoko. George sings about his Lord. But there's a lot of similar tempo tracks where I'm like, especially if you look at what the B-sides were and what the bonus, this was his follow-up to Concert of Bangladesh. Bangladesh was a single, like something like Bangladesh or the B-side to that, which is either Mrs.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's two, Miss Odell,
Yep, Miss
which is
Odell.
kind of like a Donovan-ish track where he's cracking up laughing. Actually sounds very Dylan-ish because there's a harmonica. And Deep Blue. Deep Blue is a B-side that I don't know if I would say it's better than any of these songs, but it would have added a lot more variety to this album. And then, like, if you lost one of the songs that, again, I'm going to say I like them all, and instead put on Deep Blue, maybe a perfect record. But for me, still probably a 5-star record, or at least 4.5.
I agree with you. Miss Odell, he laughs too much throughout it, so it's a novelty track. But if they had put Deep Blue in Bangladesh, particularly
Bangladesh is a great song. I get why it's not on here.
Right.
It's its own thing, but
I don't think adding them to the album would have helped it though. But I think subbing out 2 of the slower songs would have made this a better album. And actually,
Exactly.
You'll find this interesting when we rank this. I put the slower songs in high regard. I mean, they are quality songs. That slow songs are not my thing though, but you'll come to find that I think they're strong songs though. So
they're very good. And it was my problem with ranking was deciding which of the slow songs I like better. There's one I think is head and shoulders above everything else. But without any further ado, we should just get into it. I was hoping this insert was going to have the tracks on it, but have you ever gotten handed something that looks like this while walking in the streets of a city?
never.
No, I get that all the time. They seem to find me. They think I like not like this in particular, this art, but this style of washed out, in middle, Eastern art
Uh-huh.
with some sort of philosophy statement trying to convince me to. Oh, it does have tracks in here. All right, maybe I'll use this because the gatefold is going to get a little tricky.
Nice.
But I don't know. They could tell I'm in need of spiritual
Huh.
enlightenment, and so they find me, and they know I'm going to accept anything that's handed to me. So if I go to Chicago or Denver or whatever, they always find me. All right, track 1, and this is the one where I knew I was going to be in okay hands when track 1 kicked on. Give Me Love, in parentheses, Give Me Peace on Earth. What an opener. I like that song quite a bit, Matt. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I like it. And I think this is the only song I'd ever heard prior. And I don't
It
know
is a
where I
single,
heard it.
right?
Yeah, the only single.
Oh.
I don't know where I've heard this. And maybe I heard it on the Living in a Material World documentary. I have that too. I should have pulled that off the shelf. But maybe I just subconsciously had heard that play through that documentary. That's Scorsese, right?
Yeah. It was his follow-up to the No Direction Home Dylan one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the song. It to me it sounds a little too much like My Sweet Lord though, which is not a bad thing. I mean, we're talking All Things Must Pass. That was the hit off that album, classic song. I think a lot of people would say it's Harrison's best song. So let's repeat the formula, right? And start off the following album with a very similar song, not just in melody, but you got all the Krishna, peace, lovey-dovey sentiment. It's got some really good harmonies, just like My Sweet Lord. Do I like it as much as My Sweet Lord? No, I don't. But I do like it. It's not in my top 3 though. I have it at number 4, believe it or not. But it's catchy. It's the hit, right?
Yeah, it's
How
my
about
number 4. It's my number 4 as well. I mean, I get
cool.
the My Sweet Lord. It's acoustic piano. There's some electric sliding at the end, and that's really the stuff you're like, oh man, that's why he's George Harrison. I was expecting maybe, and even when I pulled this out, I was like, oh man, this is going to be a lot. But even the song, and I'd say about half the songs are about God. I don't find any of them really particularly annoying.
I don't know.
My wife, I'm talking about my wife a lot. Maybe it's because of the hat. But she would always talk about how in high school she played piano for her church and she'd work in My Sweet Lord. Like a lot of these tracks I think could be repurposed, they're not necessarily, Christian. I wouldn't mind being at a wedding and hearing any of these played in the preamble or whatever it's called. Yeah, it's my number 4. Also, George's vocals. Maybe I should save this for another track because they get really good. But when he's a Beatle, my least favorite vocals because it's so indistinct. It always feels more like I can never tell if it's George or if it's John just phoning in a vocal. Honestly, a lot of the production of this sounds like a John record too. I don't know. It's because they both worked for Phil Spector or whatever, or worked with Phil Spector or had him work for them. But he's something else. And when that first track definitely did it too. So that was Give Me Love. Talking about the Beatles, track 2 is the Sue Me, Sue You Blues. Is this a Matt favorite? I put in my notes. I'm like, I wonder if this is going to be a Matt favorite because it's not one of the slower ones. But is it?
It's not one of the slower ones. You're right. And because I would say 3/4 of this album are slow. So
Yeah.
this would be, I think, one of like four songs that are up tempo. I liked it a lot more at the beginning, and the more I listened to it, the less I liked it, and it kept dropping and dropping. To me, it sounds like a Steely Dan tune. It's a little too jazzy and slick. Obviously, it's about the money issues, Paul dissolving Apple, and what a hypocrite Harrison is, though. This whole album and the previous album is about, getting rid of your possessions, just devoting yourself to God, we're living in the material world, for crying out loud. And then here he writes some song like complaining about getting sued and suing me and suing you. And like, it's like a money song. I don't know. I just kind of find him to be a hypocrite.
And he was supposedly the most litigious one too. He was always the one suing Ringo for not using his production or whatever.
Yeah. Complaining, bitching all the time. Yep, he's definitely the biggest whiner in the group, I would say.
So I joke when we talk about the Beatles about George being like the GOP Beatle, like talking about taxes and being left alone and God, I guess also. But yeah, this is that grumpy old GOP George being litigious. I do like the guitar is doing crazy things on this, and I know you're not a guitar player, but I wonder if you know what all that boinging is. Do they just have them tuned really loose so it go boinga boinga boinga?
No, so you got two different guitars going on in this song. You've got George with a slide. You know, a slide
Mm,
would be that kind of it's usually metal, sometimes it's plastic. It's a tube that goes over your fretting finger. So when you're
mm,
playing, it gives that really legato, almost glissando type of sound where it's bending or just effortlessly transitioning from note to note. But then there's also a dobra in this, and a dobra is a lap pedal steel guitar that actually
okay.
the players sit down and it goes over there. It's like on a tabletop. Looks kind of like they're sitting down like a keyboard player. And once again, you're sliding and stuff. But that's the
Mm.
dobra that you're hearing. And so there is a dobra and a slide guitar in this song. And another thing I like about this song is the really cool electric piano. So there's two keyboardists pretty much on every track on this album. You've got first, and this is not, I would say, one of his better tracks, but you've got Nicky Hopkins. Nicky Hopkins, this is actually his only solo album, but plays on, the Rolling Stones albums, plays on the Kinks albums, plays on the Who albums, plays on the solo Beatles albums. He, along with Billy Preston, are kind of their two go-to keyboardists. And then you have the guys playing electric piano, like a Fender Rhodes or it's a Wurlitzer. Gary Wright. This particular Gary Wright is his solo career. He had like one big hit. You remember it from the Wayne's World soundtrack.
Oh, Dreamweaver. This is the
Dreamweaver, right?
Dreamweaver guy.
This is the Dreamweaver guy. So these are, some CDs that gather his solo albums. There's four on here and two on this, but he is, and both of these keyboard players are on like pretty much every track, and he does an awesome job on this song with those jazzy. That's why I said it sounds very Steely Dan-esque because it sounds like Donald Fagen on that Fender Rhodes. Really kind of distinct jazzy sound. But I don't love the song as much as many other songs on this album. So for that, I give this one number 10.
Ooh. I have it fairly low. It's my 7. Mainly because I like a lot of it, but it's just the negative vibes are what pushed me down a little bit. It's a little too snarky. I wasn't liking the content of it. So
And a little too long. I think if it wasn't, it's almost like 5 minutes. If it was at 3 minutes, fine. It just kind of noodles too long at the end.
yeah. All right, moving on to track 3. Um, Another song that I think is about the Beatles, or at least people in his life. It's called "The Light That Lights the World," and it's more or less a song about people giving him crap for being spiritual. And there was something in the production here, and maybe it's the piano that made me, when I mentioned John Lennon solo album production. This one struck me as like, oh, this sounds like something that could have been on a John album.
Sounds like Jealous Guy.
Oh,
It does.
maybe that's it. That's exactly it. Um, no, it's a pretty song. I like it. It's dead in the middle for me. Maybe it's not dead middle, but it's somewhere there. It's actually, no, that's near the top. 5. I like it. Are we near simpatico on this, or?
We're exactly the same. Yeah.
Ah,
I have it number 5 too. And we talked about Gary Wright a second ago, but this is the star of this song, Nicky
Nicky
Hopkins.
Hopkins. Okay.
Nicky Hopkins pretty much carries this song. A lot of these songs are piano driven, but this has an amazing piano solo. It's simple, but it's so tasty and tasteful. And that piano solo in the middle really sounds like Rod Stewart's Handbags and Glad Rags. And if you're not familiar with that song, it's the theme song to the original BBC The Office.
Oh,
So if you've
okay.
ever watched the Ricky Gervais Office, that's the theme song, and the piano solo that he plays on that sounds just like Handbags and Glad Rags. And then there's great harmonies in the song too. Great vocal from George. Yeah, he really came into his own vocally on this album. And as much as I love All Things Must Pass, and I think All Things Must Pass is a better album than this, I think he sings better on this album. As a matter of fact, I don't think he sings better on any other project. This is George's finest moment in terms of being a singer, and this is one of the highlights in terms of his voice. But I have it at number 5 just because it's a solid tune, but it's not the most memorable. Nicky Hopkins, though, he's the all-star for this song.
You're speaking about his vocals. The best George vocals, next track for me. Don't Make Me Wait Too Long. I just think his voice is the star of this track. I'm not going to try and do it, and it's a very repetitive song. But it's from and Weird Al famously made fun of George Harrison for writing repetitive songs. How I Love You Baby, So Don't Make Me Wait Too Long, or How I Love You Baby, How I Miss You Baby. Don't make, and he just goes up when he says you.
You
So
are.
don't make me wait too long. It's almost like a mantra, and it could have been a mantra. Maybe it was just a Hare Krishna song that he decided maybe laying it a little heavy here. Let me write the most generic love lyric possible. It's in my top 3. I dig this song mainly because it was like, holy crap, he's singing. Where is it for you?
Some lower, actually, and I can see why you like this because it's got a lot of hooks to it. The hooks are repetitive, but it's certainly catchy. Do you know what I think this song sounds like, though? It's funny because I mentioned that "Give Me Love" sounds a lot like "My Sweet Lord." This song sounds a lot like "What Is Life,"
Oh,
which was the other big hit.
Yeah.
Yep. It's short, it's sweet, it's got upbeat tempo, and it really sounds, even though this is not a Phil Spector produced album, All Things Must Pass was a Phil Spector produced album. This song sounds like Phil Spector because you've got, the castanets and you've got all that Latin percussion and you've got kind of that wall of sound production that he's famous for. But I do like this song, but I have this down at number 9.
Oh.
It's just too much. It's a poor man's version of What Is Life, and I think it's more of a poor man's version to What Is Life than Give Me Love is a poor man's version to My Sweet Lord. So.
Fair enough. I could definitely, because if the repetitiveness also annoys you, I could see like, oh, it's a checkout track. I've lost my numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who Can See It? Talking about repetition, it's not a repetitive song, but it's basically the same theme as The Light That Has Lighted the World. My life belongs to me. My love belongs to who can see it. So if you're not on board with me and my Lord, screw you, haters. I like it fine. It's probably, as far as the slow songs go, how many tracks are there? This might be my bottom one. This is track 11 I have for me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, this is my bottom track. Mainly because there's a song that covers it, and I know there are other similar sounding songs that aren't as good to me. Where's it for you?
So this is dead last for you? Or
dead last for me, but again, I like it.
Who Can See It is, for me, it's number 7.
Okay. And still in the bottom half there.
Bottom half. It's got a weird meter. Have you noticed that? The opening section, you can't quite decide if it's in 4/4 and 3/4 and 5/4. It just has this weird meter. But for whatever reason, it works. And yeah, just like you said, similar in nature to The Light That Has Lighted the World. Here's one of the things, though, that I like about this song. So I don't like it as much as The Light That Has Lighted the World, but I do like the vocals better. And I think it is his second best vocal on the album, and it sounds like he's trying to channel Roy Orbison.
I had that in my notes. Fellow Wilbury Orbison, to the point where I think it was a distraction for me more than a feature. But I think if anyone listens to this and they're familiar with Orbison, especially like his ballads, more so than Pretty Woman, they'll be like, oh, okay, that's where George is going. Maybe they were pals at this point. I don't know the timeline.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think they met until the 80s. I mean, they might have known each other just as musicians, but in terms of becoming chums, musical, collaborators, I think that was Jeff Lynne kind of gathering all those people together because he was producing Petty's album around that time. He was producing Harrison's album at that time. He was producing Orbison's single, Anything You Want, You Got It, right around that time. And I don't know. I think Dylan comes in through Tom Petty, actually. I think that's how he got pulled in. But I don't think Harrison and Orbison would have known each other at this particular point. Just a coincidence. Obviously, Orbison was around before the Beatles, and anybody who, was a rock and roller in the 60s and 70s were inspired by him and the early greats,
So we get to the title track next, Living in the Material World. One of the, I don't know if it's the most rocking tracks, but it is one of the most rocking tracks Yeah, let's just say it is the most rocking of the tracks. Again, it's about his mates and spirituality. It's in my top three. I won't hem or haw anymore about that. Super catchy too. I do like. So I was worried there was going to be a lot of sitar. That was my fear. I was like, it's going to be George and the sitar. When the sitar kicks in this song, it's so cool. It's just like, and it's one of the. I don't know if it's the bridge, but it's like one of the parts where he goes falsetto and goes from this and. Or no, he says it went by the grace of, or the. I'm going to look it up now.
Yeah,
Something
you're
about
right.
he actually says Krishna's grace or something, and then it kicks in, and then it rocks in again. Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, is it in your top three?
It's in my top three as well. Yeah, I was dreading when going into this album, and surprisingly, actually, All Things Must Pass isn't so sitar-y either. So
Okay.
I guess I didn't think it was going to be hit you over the head with a sitar, but I knew there'd be some sitar. Yeah, but right. This is like the only time other than Norwegian Wood where I actually really enjoy the sitar. Yeah, that middle section juxtaposes the opening section so nicely. And you're right, that falsetto voice that he sings is just perfect. And Billy Preston doesn't play on this. That's Mr. Wright again, but Gary Wright. But that organ sounds just like a Billy Preston organ inflection, either from Beatles songs, Stone songs, or his own solo albums. Yeah, and it's just fun. And this is the longest song in the album. And unlike Sue Me, Sue You Blues, like this could keep going because it just has such an infectious hook to it. Yeah, I love it. Top three.
Yeah. And that does close out side one. That's what I wanted to confirm. Oh, no. I lost it. Well, good thing I have the insert. All right. Coming back from that side two, the Lord loves those who love the Lord. Bit sermony, but it's still catchy. It's an upbeat track, has horns in it. If I'm going to have to take your medicine, George, I'm glad you're giving it to me in a spoon of sugar. Great guitar at the end. Track 8 for me, or number 8 for me, though, kind of in the bottom half because I'm getting kind of tired of this kind of stuff at this point. Still liking it, but love, the Lord. I'm going to cut that out. You know me. Where's it rank for you, Matt?
Yeah, like I said in the introduction, some of the fast, more up-tempo songs actually aren't my favorite, and this is definitely one of them. It as you flip the album over, it's an inviting side 2 opener because it is up-tempo, but if you listen to it through streaming or through a CD, it just sucks in compared to Living in a Material World, and it's like another long song. Those two songs together are like 10 minutes, but it's just it's not nearly the song. Just not memorable really to me. Yeah, and the Lord loves the Lord, and the Lord keeps going the Lord, and he slides up. And actually, I think this might be his weakest vocal on the whole album too. I have it at number 10.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, it was my 8. I think there's one where his voice actually cracks, so I wouldn't say it's his, but it's the most annoying consistently. I'll say that. This is
one I liked it, and I liked it initially too. And upon further listens, I probably listened to this album 15 to 20 times since we've done this exercise, and this one just keeps like I'm at the point now where I'm just skipping it. Yeah.
All right. The next track is "Be Here Now," which is the slowest song on the album. I can tell it might be too slow for Matt. But I like it. I think it's one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. And I would say it's better than Something. And Something is one of those most beautiful songs I had ever heard. Like, if I have to name George songs that are Beatles songs I actually like, Something, Guitar, and there's probably one I'm forgetting. Those are the two for me. This I think is... What?
Here Comes the Sun. Is that the other one you're thinking?
Here Comes the Sun is okay. Yeah, I like Here Comes the Sun.
It's okay.
But yeah, it's okay. But it's not Something. Something is probably my favorite George Beatles song. I think this is better than Something. I think it comes with age. It comes with age because it's less just about love. And as I get older and less of a romantic being, the idea of being present and letting go of anything is more interesting to me than just like, oh, she's a pretty lady. There's something about the way she looks. And this is the most Indian music sounding. It's not just a picky sitar. It's rhythmic. It's those Indian rhythms that I don't have the vocabulary to describe. And I like his voice in it. I get that it's a snooze, but for me, for some reason, listening to it with headphones, I had I didn't have a transcendent experience, but I could imagine someone having one listening to this. It's your bottom track, though, isn't it?
Oh, by a freaking country
Yeah.
mile. Song is terrible, man. Are you kidding me?
No.
Everything we just talked
Good.
about Harrison and his Beatle output. You got the drone underneath. You got that Indian, instrumentation with the sitar. You got this flat vocal. It reminds me of the song "Long, Long, Long" off of the White Album. If you've ever watched my ranking of songs off the White Album, you'll see where that song is. Yes, no melody to it. Just kind of stays in this mid range. And by the way, the production on this song too is like, what the hell happened to the producer? Did he go on a coffee break or something?
Well, George produced it, I'm pretty sure, but
it's so soft. It's so. I mean, I have to crank up the volume when I listen to Julia. Lennon track off of the White Album. I had to double the cranking on this song. And you know what? After I finally listened to it and I could hear everything, I just skip it now. It goes absolutely nowhere. As a matter of fact, Oasis, their third album, is called "Be Here Now," and that album sucks too. That whole album is crack. And I love the first two Oasis albums, but that third album really sucks. Actually,
Do You Know What I Mean's okay. But
yeah, it's okay, but in comparison to the first two, it sucks, right? And when that came out, because they were on top of the world in England, their biggest fans went and tossed it out that very day too.
Lots of copies in the used CD world for sure. Yeah, I knew you wouldn't like this one. I knew this is the one that we would differ on.
I liked it on the first listen, and I think when I texted you and said this is a perfect album, this is the first time we've had a perfect album, I think I had too much to drink or something, or I must have gotten up and had a bathroom break during the song, or I accidentally skipped it. I don't know, because on the second listen, I was like, why did I tell Jacob that? This song sucks. I can't believe it's your top three though, isn't it?
It's in my top three. Oh, easy. Okay, well, I know I'm not going to be able to convince you otherwise on that one, so let's move on to Try Some, Buy Some, which is a track that I bounced around my list a lot, because I think it left me a little cold maybe on the first listen, and then it won me over, and now it's sunk somewhere in the middle. It's number 7. It's another. I mean, it's very literally about materialism, and but this one, the production is to the point where I'm like, did he get Martin to produce a track or two? And no, Phil Spector produced this track. And I don't know if he produced any of the others. I'll have to look. But at the very end, you get that wall of sound, lots of horns coming in. I do like how this and the next couple songs actually build to things. This tells me all songs written and produced by George Harrison. But I remember thinking...
It was a hit for Ronnie Spector, and
Spector had something to do with it.
I think Phil produced, so it was a single for Ronnie Spector, which was Phil's wife, and and he may have produced that particular version of the song.
There's an asterisk here that says "Try Some, Buy Some," produced by George and Phil Spector. So, though the anecdote is Spector was hired to produce this and then just never showed up. So who knows, but he's definitely trying to emulate that or the George Martin sound at the end, I feel. I like the song okay. Where's it rank for you?
Yeah, I like it too. And actually the anecdote that you shared about how it's kind of, you didn't like it at first and it's kind of moved up and down. That's for me too. And I think it's because, man, the side 2 opener and then the, which is, The Lord Loves the One, and then Be Here Now. I put those as my last 2 songs. So this saves side 2 for me, and then going forward, I do like the other songs obviously because I haven't put them in my bottom 2 spots. This is number 6 for me. Yep, it's got that one that Harry Nilsson, that minor kind of just steady piano chord thing, and then you got that awesome uh middle section, which almost sounds like a calliope. It's kind of carnival-like. It's like a waltz or a carnival-like, like Henry the Horse does the waltz type of thing. There's that little weird section in there. And you know what it kind of reminds me too of? It reminds me of All of My Friends Were There, which is from the Kinks Village Green Preservation Society. It kind of has that different section that, and then it goes
Yeah.
back to gonna try someone by some. Yeah, I like it. It's middle of the road though. Obviously, it's number 6 for me.
Uh, second to last track, track 10, The Day the World Gets Round. We know it's not your bottom track because we know what that is. But traditionally, second to last track might have been is your bottom spot. I always feel like I need to address that. This one I like though. I think again, there's one of those songs that has that similar tempo and feel, but this one builds to something. And I do like how he sings the chorus. Again, it's all kind of first falsetto. The day the world gets round. I'm not gonna sing it. I'm trying to trick you into doing it for me.
The day the world gets round.
There we
Ding,
go.
ding.
And another one I have in my notes also sounds like a John solo track. It's my number 6. So top half for me of the album. How about you?
Yeah, it starts off the opening section. Other than that being kind of an earworm, right? There was times in the middle of the night I was waking up the past couple of weeks and going, "The day the world gets round," and if that whatever that sticks in my head. But that's not my favorite part. So there's 2 sections to the song. Oh, and I also love those little harmonics on the guitar. Ding, ding, ding. Almost sounds like a glockenspiel, but it's just that he's got his finger high up on the fret and he's creating that harmonic tone. But when it gets into that middle section, this is a short song too. This is the shortest song in the album, 2 minutes and 50 seconds. He channels his inner Paul McCartney. He gets that big middle tone to his voice, and the horns are kicking in, and his vocal is confident. And if you're the destructive kind, not enemy, then they. Oh man, I love that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about. I didn't
That
think of
part-
it, but that does seem like a part of that would be in a Paul solo song. So maybe that's where my confusion was in.
Yep. Gives me goosebumps. It's a top 3 for me.
Oh, really? I liked it. And the problem was, like, I would listen to it. I'm like, no, it's ranked too low. And so I would swap some, like, just when I came to this part of the album, it's always like, I have to reevaluate what I liked before it. And at the very last, this is one, if we would have recorded this a week ago, it might have been further down, might have been further up.
Right.
Yeah.
Same for me.
I also feel like I give short shrift to this last song because I know I like it. It's called "That Is All." It's another slow one though, and it's another one where he's singing in that upper register. But I know it builds, and it is like a good song and an exciting song. But at that point, there's sort of a routine feeling to it. So I feel like if I were to listen to all this album on shuffle, That Is All might be higher than my number 10, but that's where it ended up, just because I always listen to it from beginning to end. Where is it for you?
It's top 3, man.
Really? Yeah, that's my suspicion is it's a really good song, and
yeah, and you think I would be not into it because I didn't like the first 2 songs on side 2, but it keeps getting better and better from that point on. This song sounds like Tears of Rage. I mean, it sounds like I Shall Be Released by the band. He's got that very affected voice that sounds like he's very what's the word I'm looking for? He's got that Richard Manuel tone to his voice that he's very volatile or something like that. He's kind of putting his heart out and he's holding it in front of you.
He's
It's
very
got a beautiful
vulnerable.
Yes,
throughout
right.
the album, and this is probably a track where more so than others because he's up high so much.
How beautiful falsetto. Yep. And then it has like a tinkling harpsichord, which is cool. It brings a different tone to the keyboard. It's got that McCartney-esque bass by Klaus Vormann that syncopates over the melody. And then the end, yeah, right. It's not just a downer either. It builds just like The Day the World Gets Round. At the end, you've got that Abbey Road style guitar solo that sounds like something after the song The End. It's just got that great Abbey Road production. That guitar is like a Beatles sounding guitar. This song is Beatles sounding.
Mm.
And it's got some cool mixed meter in it as well, kind of like Who Can See It, but I think it's done and executed better. It's not as that's a little the way that song, the mixed meter is, it's a little strange. Whereas this, it's mixed meter, but it works, and you don't even really think about it unless you're analyzing the theoretical components to the composition. But this is a top three for me, and I absolutely freaking love it.
Yeah, I want to redo my list. Do I get a mulligan like like you do? Um,
Yeah.
but I'll just do my top three. Well, actually, since we ended on your on one of your top three, we'll just go through your top three right now.
All right. So my number three is The Day the World Gets Round. So yeah, the penultimate song made my top three. My second favorite song is Living in the Material World, because I mean it's just, I gotta put one rocker on my top three, right? But my number one is That Is All. Yeah, That Is
Uh,
All is my favorite.
my number three is "Don't Make Me Wait Too Long," which I was more enamored with than you. Number two, "Living in a Material World," which means number one is "Be Here Now." For me, which I don't know. I like what I like, I guess. And other
Yeah.
than feeling like I put That Is All too low, I stand by my list. Damn it. Good album. People should listen to it. If they've somehow managed to listen to this or watch this without having listened to it, well, then you wasted your time. Could have been better spent. Let's see if I got a spinner wheel queued up. I don't know if I do. Safari. Picker wheel. Nope, that doesn't have it. Have I done it on this computer? That's my fear. So it's picker wheel for George. We should have Beatles specific prompts for our Beatles ones, but I can't. Oh, but it's one Matt likes anyway.
Yeah. Woohoo.
All right, let's do a random number generator. 0 to 1001. 887, that's pretty low. It's going to be pretty recent.
Yeah, that's bad. That's not good for me.
887. I think, is this the side I like? Yep.
Oh boy. Yeah, it would be recent. This is 90s. This is
887 is Beth Orton Central Reservation.
nope, don't have it.
Nope.
I
We
have
stumped.
880. I have 886, believe it or not.
Okay, well,
I don't
you're
I
an
don't
Iowa boy.
yeah, I have
Uh,
it holed away somewhere where I'm not displaying it though, I'll tell you that.
just to give you a second chance, I did it again. 141 was the number. This is pretty early now. Oh, Flying Burrito Brothers,
Oh yeah, I got it.
Gilded Palace of Sin.
Country rock, very similar to like Bird's era Sweetheart of the Rodeo.
Okay,
As a
so
matter
I
of
am
fact,
not familiar.
Chris Hillman from the Byrds, the bass player, and Graham Parsons are part of the Flying Burrito Brothers.
Ah, I did not know that. All right, you had it. Was it buried?
Well, yeah, it was on a bottom shelf, and I had to come back and get a flashlight because I couldn't see. This is actually a twofer. This is um the was that Gilded Palace of Sin? Is that what the one that you picked up?
Yes, that
And
was
this
the
also has
one.
burrito deluxe on it too. So it's
Okay. Well, if people think we should be discussing that album or the other one, they should comment on this video as well as like and subscribe. We will be back with a guest next week, and then following that, more me and him, probably a versus is up on deck, but what? We don't know if we'll return to the Beatles, if we'll do another Stones, because that was fun. A lot of the Stones albums, I looked, Matt, if you just look at the discography, you're like, oh, those pair well. And the track numbers are nice. So we might keep doing Stones as well. And eventually, I think I like doing the solo albums. I think eventually we should start. This should be considered how we seed them in an eventual Beatles solo tournament of sorts to the
Absolutely.
death.
People should comment maybe with suggestions about track versus tracks. And remember, they have to have the same amount of tracks. So if you're
Or offer a suggestion on how to modify it otherwise, because we do that because we want to. But until then, thank you for watching. Keep listening to music. It's good for the soul.